Alright guys, this is Swiftdeathshotz, and this video is basically going to be about Gigavise and Bludvise, because I said I was running zombie plants at the moment, and I wanted to show you real quickly basically some combos and what I do with the deck. So I've been wanting to do this for a few while, so we'll do it now real quick. The deck basically revolves around these two. They're the key monsters of the deck, and then it runs around Supervise. Supervise reads as follows: equip only to a Gemini monster, which of course is Illblood and Gigaplant. It is treated as an effect monster and gains its effects. When this face-up card on the field is sent to the graveyard, select and special summon one normal monster from your graveyard. Basically, so what happens is this has to activate due to a technicality, so when it's synchro or exceeds with, this drops off into the grave and then activates in the graveyard, bringing back one of these two if they're in there. Which is really good, and I'm going to show you why that's really good right now. So we're going to start with the Bludvise. I'm going to assume we have this in hand. I'm going to assume there's no responses to anything throughout, okay? So it's just a quick combo video, assuming no responses. I'm going to assume I have a Mizuki in the grave and a Plague in the grave, because let's face it, these are at 3, they're easy to get into the grave now. I'm going to assume that the Blood's in the grave actually first as well. So assuming all these cards are at 3, this is at 3, so assuming that we get them off, and this is the current situation with the graveyard. So we start by banishing the Mizuki, obviously, for the Illblood. You then play from the hand Supervise, obviously, so you play the Supervise, this is the graveyard still down here, and then you basically activate the effect. If there's no responses, because we're assuming there's no responses at all, we're going to take the Plague Spreader and we're going to bring it up, basically, like that, and then we're going to sink it to an 8, which will be, obviously, we'll just assume it's Stardust to start with. Supervise now activates in the graveyard, bringing up the Blood. We haven't used our normal summon, so we now go normal summon, and we normal summon over this, again bringing out the Plague. At this, I want to say at this point with this deck, there's multiple things you can do. Assuming this is the grave down here, this is the graveyard. Multiple things you can do. If you have a Redox in hand, which we play, you can pitch again and make more stuff. There's also the possibility of a Malicious in the grave, and this is the main one. If there's a Malicious in the grave now, so say when we had the Malicious in the grave right now, you banish one, bring one up, you can sync with this and this, and keep the Illblood live, or then when the Plague goes to the graveyard for the other 8, you can basically banish it by using its effect and put these both in for a third level, for level 8. But we assume I have no Mali, we assume I have no Redox. So far all we've done is banish a Mizuki from the graveyard. So we bring this back up, and we're just going to, this is basically the most basic play you'll ever do with this deck. Sync these two again for another 8, which is normally either, depending on the size of your hand, or depending on the size of your hand. If there's no hand, it's Void Ogre now, but normally it's one of these 3. Murmouth, this one, Plants, this one, and if it's Boojin, it's normally this one, assuming it's Boojin for the moment. Going to Colossal Fighter, because when they drop Crane, this comes back, so we go into this. So assuming it's Boojin and we've got Yamato to get over, we've gone into these two, and that's basically the most basic thing you can do. This stops Quilling, this fights over Crane, so that's the 2 main things. They're the 2 main 8s you go into. Nice easy play. I'm basically going to change it around now, as I haven't shown you what happens with the Mali and all that. Into Gigaplant and show you what Gigavise does for my deck. It needs to set up, it's slightly different. So we're just going to have to get everything ready. The setup is slightly different. Basically, these are the main parts of it. These 5 here. So if any combination of these works really well. So basically, assuming we have, this one, which is new, the Macro Carpa Seed. This is the most important one, actually, with the Gigaplant. So assuming that we have this in deck for the first, there's 2 instances I'll show you. So the first one, we'll assume we had this in deck, so that's in deck. Assuming we have this in hand, and Supervise in hand, and assuming we have the Lone Fire Blossom as well. And really, and we'll assume we have the Macrocarpa seed in the graveyard for the moment. Just for the moment, we'll assume we have it in the graveyard. So we go, again, and we'll do it if there's no responses. So Loanfire, pitch this to the graveyard, get out Gigaplant. We supervise a Gigaplant. This one uses up our normal summon, obviously. So we supervise the Gigaplant. If the Macrocarpa seed is not in the graveyard now, we summon the Loanfire Blossom. The Loanfire Blossom would then get the Macrocarpa. Assuming on this instance that we have that, we go straight into the Macrocarpa. So we go Macrocarpa seed on with supervise attached. And now we have two options. The level 8 we run is Scrap Dragon. So the two 8 Earths that I have as targets are Gigantic Castle currently and Scrap Dragon. This instance, the first instance, you want to make the Gigantic Castle. So these will go to the graveyard down here. And then we make the Gigantic Castle. This is at 3-1, of course. There normally would be a response to this, as there always is. The Gigaplant's effect goes off. So the Supervisor's effect goes off. And bring the Gigaplant back up. This time we've used our normal summon. And so it's less effective, but we get this. If you go into Scrap, you also get the target of the Gigaplant. Macrocarpa can drop its level, so we can go straight into Scrap. So that's how you do that. And that works straight from deck. All you need is a Loanfire Blossom for this, and it works a lot faster. I prefer the Bludvise. There's other instances you can have. For instance, again, if there's a Mally in the grave now, you go into M7. You can pitch the Loanfire Black back to hand off the M7. If there's a Plague in the grave now, for instance, you can go straight into an 8 again. So if you're avoiding Milder Plague down here, I use effect to bring this back up, make an 8, and it's a Dark Tuner, so I can still go into Void Ogre, which is really good. So that's why we run that. The other version of this you can get is where, in the unfortunate instance, you mill the Gigaplant. And I'm not a fan of milling the Gigaplant. So assume the Gigaplant's in the grave. Assuming we have set up slightly different. Assuming that we have like everything else. So we need for this to work a Crane in hand mainly. We're assuming we have a Macrocarpa seed in the graveyard in this instance. So Macrocarpa seed's gone to the grave and we have Crane. So what we need is the Crane and supervise. So you go Crane, grabbing the Macrocarpa which was in the grave. You have two options here. If you don't want to go for the Gigaplant, you can now make Barkion. But we're assuming that we're playing for the supervised combo. So we go Melee right now, because they're both Earth. It's better to do this with Dandelion, but Carpa works just as well. You special summon this in defense position, and then of course you go off with the supervised effects, bringing this up, making this effect goes off again, making either Scrap or Gigantic Castle in this instance, and then this is ready again. Making another, using Plague or Mally like before. So there's lots of different options you can go for with this deck. The other cards you can run with are Dandelion, or even Melee, and then just getting the extra tokens too, which works really well. Other than that, the other effects go off mainly are through Redox by pitching and then getting your normal summon. So say you have these two in hand, you pitch this, bring up the Gigaplant, go off like that, or your blood and go off that way. There's one other combo that works in this also, which tends to go off via Zombie Master. Let me just grab a Zombie Master from my deck. So wherever one is. Sorry guys. Zombie Masters have decided to abandon me for this. I'm just trying to look for one. There's one. So there's one more combo with Zombie Master that can be done. I currently trade my emerald away for a DT one, so I'll just assume this is an emerald, so this is an emerald. Assuming there's something in the grave, assuming this is in the grave, or whatever's in the grave, it doesn't really matter as long as there's a zombie level 4 in the grave. Pitching this, bring up this, you can then go emerald, secondary effect of emerald either on this in the grave or your blood, and then basically, so either these two, and then go detach for secondary effect to bring up a null monster. If it's Mizuki you pitch, then you've of course got another play with your blood, and then just attach the supervise, and then you can go off with plague or Mally in the grave, for instance, straight away if you wanted to do that effect. So there's loads of different combos with this, there's loads of different things that work, there's different things that you can go around. I find it really viable, I find it really good. The only issue I'm toying with is how many supervise to run. Currently at 2 supervise, it's working really okay at 2. It's harder to get the combo off when you're running a mill deck with the 2. You might want to run the full 3. Other than that, that's my Bludvise, my Bludvise and my Gigavise combos for my zombie plants. I hope you found it helpful, I hope it helped you out. That's everything for me for the moment. I'll give you the full deck list in a couple of days once I've got everything back, once my DT emerald's back, once I've got everything that I need. So I'll do that list in a few days. Subscribe and let me know what you think. So that's Swift Death over and out for today, guys. See ya.